Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. Happy Thursday. I'm gonna pop in here and answer a question. Threes hold. Okay, what should we keep in mind for the lower bound of an underdeveloped roast and the upper bound of an overdeveloped roast? What is the band that we should have in mind so that if we encounter a roast, band or bound, a roast that we think is too under or too overdeveloped, we know how far of a step we should take to go in the right direction. Okay, kind of a hard question to unravel, but what I think you're saying, how do we know what's underdeveloped? How do we know what's overdeveloped? So if we have an underdeveloped roast and we're at the roaster, and say at the roaster we have this type of graph, that's what we're looking at. And generally, what we're gonna do is base our roast that we're roasting on previous experience. You know, that's why good note taking is really, really important, because we can quickly look back in our physical notes, you know, not like on a phone or something like that. I don't really believe in that because like it can get lost so easily. But when you have a physical notebook, like I keep one, you know, my little orange or yellow notebooks where I can flip really easily to a profile that I'm doing. I'm like, oh yeah, I dropped this at 10 minutes 53 seconds, not 11 minutes 20 seconds. Okay. So I don't really make any calls or decisions or determinations when I'm at the roaster. But what I do is like, I'll take notes, mental notes, and just like, and use that information to adjust if I need to, or correct or whatever on the next batch. So say I'm roasting a lot of one particular coffee, maybe somebody ordered 5 pounds of it or something, and maybe the first one, because maybe the machine's cold or whatever the reason is not like perfect or to my standard, I'll need to correct that in the next, you know, in the next upcoming roast. And if it's a true mulligan, then yeah. But I don't make any real delineations on underdeveloped, overdeveloped until I get to the cupping table, until I taste that underdeveloped or overdeveloped profile, okay? So sometimes, for example, I'll roast like something with a middle phase of 2 minutes 30. Like that's short to me. I'm like, uh-oh. That'll just throw off a red flag in my brain. But then I go, okay, I need to remember to take a sample of that and taste that in comparison to something that has a more developed middle phase or something. Okay, and then that's where we can make our delineation. This is underdeveloped, overdeveloped, whatever the thing is, the distinction is. We can't really make confirmed decisions, not 100% confirmed, unless you have really good note taking and you know for sure that you made that mistake of underdeveloping or overdeveloping. But for the most part, you know, at home when we're home roasting, I'm talking to a home roasting audience, is basically throwing up a red flag in your brain, going, okay, let me take a sample of that and just sort of like see what that tastes like, and then confirm. So doing that initial step of like confirming, I had to go through that, where I'm like, I know with certain coffees that I've roasted over and over again, if I don't hit certain marks, I've already cupped it already, I already know what that tastes like. Then at the roaster, I can be like, yep, I know that's going to be underdeveloped. I need to do it again. Or I need to, I don't know, extend the last phase and I won't lose any quality, you know? And it's so hard to like just give you, oh, what's the, what's the standard? But, you know, I can give you a starting point, which is just like basically giving you my experience behind the roaster, which is really, you know, it's not that much, but, you know, if it helps. There's that, okay? So I hope that's clear, where it's like at the roaster, we're looking at a curve, maybe it doesn't look perfect or pretty or whatever, and you assume or you're prejudging that it's underdeveloped. Now, from there, you look based on your old notes of this coffee. You know, most likely you haven't roasted it, most likely you've roasted it more than once for you to even think it's underdeveloped, overdeveloped, because you have some experience with it. Because you can't really say that on the first time. because you really can't, you haven't cupped it yet. Unless you are like, you In some cases, you're a master and you just know. Okay, you just 100% can't know in the very beginning, based upon without cupping it. Okay, because some coffees are more flexible or forgiving than others, and some, as you guys have seen, are really not forgiving and have really no leeway until it tastes overdeveloped, right? And even the word overdeveloped and underdeveloped can be different amongst who's tasting that, because why? Taste is subjective. So if somebody doesn't I always use Onyx, not to pick on them, but they just have a really light profile roast, and people could be using that word wrong and saying this is underdeveloped, it's tea-like, it's light-bodied, very delicate, Somebody who likes dark roasted coffee could call that Onyx coffee, or roasts or really light roasts underdeveloped. In that, how are you defining underdeveloped? Right? We're getting into the weeds of this, but do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So how do we course correct? I think that's your main question, right? So if we feel in our bones at that very moment at the roaster, we don't have time to freaking cup, right? We're right there. I got to do the second batch. I get that. You're going off a gut feeling, your past experience, and good note taking, and you go, I need to course correct. Okay, well, if it's an underdevelopment in the middle phase, my cues are, okay, I went too fast in the middle phase. That means I had too much energy, which means I had too much heat or fuel. So I need to slow down the middle phase. And before I get to these parts where I can look back at that graph and I can slow down that heat, I can slow down that energy coming into the roast. I'm not sure what you mean by what is the roasting band that we should have in mind, so that if we encounter a roast band, there may be just a miscommunication on words that we're using. So we're not really on the same page with words. Encounter a roast that we think is too under or too over. So how should we go in the right direction? Okay. Yeah, it'll just be, for me, when I'm at the roaster and I only have the graph and the beans that are developing in front of me, in front of the roaster, I don't have the cupping table yet, I base it upon the last roast. So if I roasted something and I call it under, I feel in my bones it's underdeveloped, I'm gonna keep a sample of that with me, when and I charge everything again and I do everything I think I should correct. For example, if it's a middle phase thing, I will slow down the heat there so I can extend the middle phase, and then do my third phase the same way. And then when I'm ready to drop, I have that sample of the previous roast that I thought was underdeveloped, and make sure that I go darker than that. Does that make sense? So you're just using all the things that you've already done to help you make a decision for the future. So you look at the past to make decisions in the present, right? And then that way you can ensure a better roast in the future. So, the history, you're assessing history, you're making history, you're using history to your advantage in that you know what happened already, right? You already know what happened. Okay, I did that. Okay, cool. So we can eliminate doing what I did there. Now I need to change, reminder to change one thing at a time, or whatever you feel is necessary for your situation, to correct. If it's underdeveloped, you need to go slower. If it's overdeveloped, you need to go faster. That's a good general thing, I think, so say you're running 14 minutes long, you didn't mean to. You meant to make a light roast, and you need to cut it off more around, I don't know, that depends, 10 minutes to 11 minutes, whatever it is. So you need to go faster. So if it's overdeveloped, you need to go faster. If it's underdeveloped, you need to go slower. I mean, generally that's true, but as you know, there are no definitive rules in coffee, right? So I say that with a grain of salt and just based upon my own experience. And of course, there's going to be a more refined sort of manipulation of whatever machine and environment that you're dealing with personally, okay, or individually. There's also a couple of things I want to show you. So I have this from my little Clatch training manual, and every now and again I look back on it, and when I first went through it, of course, since being so new, I didn't really understand everything that was in this book, right? But of course, everything that you possibly could want to know about roasting is in here. It's how you interpret this information and then actually use it in a problem-solving, real-life situation, right? Like, this is all theory. And then when you get out into the field of actually roasting, just like anything that has, you know, theory and concept and instruction, it's always going to be just a little bit more different, or sometimes even totally different in the field. But here we go. Roast level. Here's a description. So city to city plus. The slight is, and then, you know, they use all the right terms. So splotchy, light brown, no oil, no cracks, near bean tips, slight expansion. The sound first crack is around 30 seconds to a minute 30 after the end of first crack. So that's how long it is for a city to city plus roast. That's a light roast, right? Taste, it should taste bright, sweet, juicy, have a light body, and have fresh fruit. And the smell should be malty, sweet, floral, herbal. The touch should be bumpy, uneven surface, and no sheen. And I'm not gonna friggin' read this whole book. Like, I respect the class and the education, and I'm not trying to put what Mike says on the internet, you know. But yeah, there's going to be visual, audible, cuppable, smellable, touchable characteristics of each of your coffees. And they're all gonna, they can all be a little different, right? Because what I said before in the last video, different kind of processing. How old is it? What kind of machine you have? What kind of power are you working with? If you take notes on how your coffees look on a roast that is great or good, or maybe you haven't got there yet, so keep working at it. But it's all in the notes, right? Okay, good. Like, this roast is juicy. It's full of fruits. It's got a nice light body, but I taste a little bit of roastiness on it. Is this, you know, is this overdeveloped in a way that I'm trying to make this a light roast? Is this overdeveloped in a way that it's becoming now a medium roast? Question mark. Okay, so in order for me to confirm that, right, and be like, this is a light roast, this is a medium roast, what is this? This is City Plus roast, right? I need to roast it again, have that sample with me there at the roaster, and I go, I need to go lighter than this. And then I'm gonna cup it again, and then confirm. Do I have a light roast in front of me? Am I tasting it, seeing it, smelling it, touching it, all the things? And then I can check that off the box. I can look at my graph, and I can make those delineations with the good note-taking things that I have, right? You can get as nerdy as you want, like whatever works for you in order for you to understand what is light, light plus, medium plus, light dark, medium dark, dark, right? There's all these, the spectrum in coffee and flavor and taste and color and all that stuff. It's super wide, right? So the more that you can break it down for yourself, and this is not for you to learn everything. This is something one of my mentors told me, is something like, just learn enough. You don't need to learn everything. You just need to learn enough, you know? And so don't get discouraged if you don't get it right away, if you don't understand every single element. But if there's one element in this whole thing that I'm talking about that you kind of get, then focus there. Because the better that you can like check that thing off your list and make room in your brain for something new, then good. But we can't learn everything all at once. Okay, so out of all these videos that I make, if one thing kind of sticks in your brain and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about over there, but I can kind of see what you're saying here, so I'm gonna focus on that and kind of master that little concept. Do that, okay? And then when you master it, really, and you can be like second nature, maybe look at a light roast and go, that's light roast, cool, good. I can move on to this next thing of like, what is underdeveloped, what is overdeveloped? Maybe under and overdeveloped is not even in your wheelhouse yet. Maybe you're not ready to learn that yet. Maybe you just need to learn how to control your machine first, right? So, and that's okay. I think I want to remind you, like, it's okay to go at your own pace. you know, unless you're maybe running a business and you got to learn this right away. Go at your own pace. And if you're not really understanding the concept of under or over or where do I start, or like it's maybe a concept beyond you right now for now, so you can just lay that aside and come back into like, okay, I just want to learn how to control my machine. I want to know, like, if I want to extend my middle phase, I can. If I want to shorten it up, I can. I know that when I cup a certain coffee, I can without a doubt say this is a light roast. And when I cup a medium, I can say this is a medium roast. Okay, so those like fundamentals of coffee roasting and being a coffee roaster, that way when you want to go beyond that or get more advanced, you can, because your basics, your foundation are checked off, right? I mean, that's what works for me, so I hope it works for you. But if that wasn't clear, clarify for me in the comments, what did you mean? Did I get what you meant by band? It just seems to me that you're wanting to know how do you correct if you have an underdeveloped or overdeveloped roast and you're at the roaster and you're not gonna go cup it right away. So in the comments, let me know, what did you mean by what is the roasting band that we should have in mind, so that if we encounter a roast, okay? All right, cool. Thanks a lot for your questions. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.